On today's episode, we spoke to Ben Komenkul. He is the Ben's Big Deals. He talks about the best credit cards, the way to maximize points, airline programs. He's got all the hacks on how to get the most out of your spending and turn that into amazing trips.
He shows us all 40 of his credit cards that he has active right now. And then he tells us which credit card is the heaviest. So if you're like trying to flex and you throw it against the table, which one is the heaviest metal card?
There is one credit card that can apparently stop a bullet. It's not guaranteed. They don't advertise that, but it has been known to stop a bullet.
Anyway, gives us tons of strategy to do things for free that usually cost a lot of money. Have a good listen.
All right. Welcome back to the Investing RN podcast. We are joined today by, I should have asked you how to pronounce your last name, but Ben Komenkul.
That's right. You did a good job. Yeah.
All right. So I actually, Josh and I were out at WealthCon in Vegas back in October, and we were all getting ready to leave. And I just spotted Ben grabbing an Uber. So I just asked if it was okay to share. And we shared a ride, and he just blew my mind with all these credit card tips and travel hacks and all these things. And then he got me into the American Express Lounge at the Vegas airport. Had a great dinner. Had like the best cookies ever I've ever had in an airport. Yeah, they were awesome. And I was just like, wait a second. With all the nurses that I know that travel all the time, I was like, we got to get you on. So thank you for joining us today. It's been a long time coming. We're excited to have you and just have so many questions to ask about all this stuff.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me, Colin. Thank you, Joshua, as well. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah. So, usually we're talking to nurses. You're not in the nursing field, but you.
I dated one.
Hey, that counts.
Close enough.
Through nursing school, so I know all about the clinical days, and yeah.
Oh, yeah. You're basically an RN. Yeah. But.
It's like we've started realizing that like everyone has some connection to a nurse somewhere. Yeah. So it's just doesn't matter where you go. There's nurses everywhere.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I think what really struck me was just like I was a lot like Josh. I was very resistant to credit cards. Grew up, my parents were always like advocating for like paying things cash and not having debt and all that kind of stuff. But later on realized like there was some power in credit cards, and the first time I took a trip that was essentially all paid for by credit cards, it kind of blew my mind. Since then I've had a back and forth relationship with credit cards because I was like, racked up a bunch of debt, paid it off. Then like the points didn't really work out. But yeah, I feel like a lot of nurses could use some tips. So how did you get into this?
Yeah, I know how you feel, Colin. For the last 25 years, I've been in financial planning, and I've been telling people to get out of debt. And so it's not a matter of, I think biggest thing that people have initially is credit cards. Ooh, bad, but they have no problem getting a car loan. They have no problem mortgaging their house. It's the same thing. It's a means to an end. And part of that, what I think is important that people need to know is that you need to just be responsible with it, but if you're responsible with it, then you have a house. If you're responsible, you can get a nice car without having to have the cash paid for it. And the same thing when it comes to credit cards, you can be able to have your trips paid for if you use it the right way. There's a way to use it, and there's certain cards to get, and there's certain lifestyle, and there's no one card for everyone. I think everyone has different they spend money differently. And so some credit cards are better designed based on how people spend. I started my, down this road when I was actually a business traveler. I was a business traveler for 10 years. And here's my business travel story. Our company allowed us to stay any hotel, anywhere, as long as it had the name Inn in the name of the hotel. Had to be Inn, I-N-N. So that's Holiday Inn, Residence Inn, Garden Inn, all these inns I stayed at. And the problem is this, the inns are a certain level of luxury. It's more like what they call select service. It's like 3-star below. So I got excited because I was staying at the La Quinta Inn, and the La Quinta Inn had their top tier level was black level. So I was staying at La Quinta Inn top tier. Now, here's the thing. I told my wife I had 2 free nights. I'm going to go take her on a vacation to San Diego, beautiful, sunny San Diego. She's excited. She's thinking sand, surf. She's thinking like this, Hotel Coronado. When we get there, it's like off the freeway, like Hotel Circle in San Diego. And she wasn't very impressed. She said to me after we're done with our roadside free breakfast that I was selling her on, she told me, if this is my idea of a vacation, I'd rather stay home. she told me that this it's more comfortable being home than those type of properties. So I understand when you're there for business. I understand when you're driving on the roadside. But if you're looking for a vacation, if you're trying to impress your significant other with a nice vacation, a birthday, that wasn't going to do it. And so at that point, I think I realized either I need to find a new job and with a better travel policy, or I need to learn a little bit of how these people talk about flying with points and miles. And it was foreign to me. This is back in 2014, 2013, 2014. And 10 years later, I dived down the rabbit hole. And I remember getting a new job. And my new boss was like, you should really pick one airline and one hotel. Prior to that, I was what we call a free agent, meaning that I chose the cheapest airfare, which a lot of people do. I was flying Southwest locally. I was going up north. I'm based in Los Angeles. I was going up north. I was going Alaska, and across country I was using American. So I was spread out everywhere. So all my points were spread out in different airlines and different hotel programs. And here's the thing. And if any of you are traveling for work, if you consolidate into one, you would have earned what they call elite status. And what that would have done is would have given me upgrades for free into first class, free bags, free seat selection. That would have saved me money long term, because every single time I got on an American flight, I had to pay for seat selection. If I didn't pay for seat selection, I sat in the middle seat. If I didn't have elite status, I would be paying for bags because I didn't have elite status, or I need to go get their credit card, which could do done the same thing. So a lot of things that we could tweak with how we travel, and that would save us money. So that's one of my first advice I would give people. Think about how you travel and how you can best use it.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's a.
Oh, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say that's a little bit foreign to what we usually tell people. So in the nursing field, in healthcare, what we say is don't necessarily be faithful to one employer, because you can get a higher raise if you move around every few years or every year. But you're saying stick to the same airlines because you'll get more benefits they'll see that you're faithful and you'll get more upgrades and stuff. Yeah. So how much do you actually have to travel before you start seeing some of these upgrades?
So that's a really good question. It's changed since the pandemic. So when I started and where it is today, that's somewhat changed, because when people weren't traveling, how did the airlines stay in business? Some of them went out of business. So let me give you a little bit of background on this. And this kind of leads into the whole points and miles aspect of it. How does the points and miles actually work? So here's the thing. Some people have asked me, this must be illegitimate. This must be, a scam, things like that. Let me clarify this. I want to explain that. Are we familiar with Delta and Delta Sky Miles, right? I think you're Delta. Okay.
Yeah.
I would like you to all think this for a second. Imagine Delta Sky Miles, the loyalty program, is separate from Delta Airlines. Think of it as two different entities, okay? Don't think of it as the same. Same thing with American Advantage and American Airlines. So when you actually book a flight using miles, think of that loyalty program as a bank. They're their own bank, and they sell miles to another bank. Delta sells it to American Express. American Airlines sells it to Citi and Barclays. That's the bank that issues a credit card. So the airlines are that division. Think of them like the bank of the airline. They're the ones that have the money. They're the ones that are giving, and they're selling their miles to those banks. To Delta selling to American Express, and in that, American Express is paying them. So that is how they monetize these miles. And then now that they monetize these miles, they use that cash that they make, and then they buy the seats from the airline. So there's like an internal purchase. So the airlines actually, at the end, every year when they're like, basically you can book right now a ticket for next year. When they open up the schedule, every day they're opening up always 360 days ahead. When they open it up, they always give 2 in business or in first class for the loyalty program. So if there's like 16 seats, 2 of them will go to the loyalty program. And you, as someone who holds the miles, can be able to book. Basically, you're redeeming your points with the bank, and then they're purchasing a ticket. Does that make sense? But they don't get all the tickets. They only get maybe 2 out of the 16. Once those 2 are gone, they're gone. So booking out in advance is a very, very big thing. So there's a whole science and the whole math to it. It's not a random thing.
So I have a friend who travels from Green Bay to Idaho like on a regular basis, and I think he's with American. I don't remember what exactly he's with, but he said he gets like free first class tickets like all the time, just because he books with the same flight company. So he has. So what you're saying is that he has to be using the American Airlines credit card or whatever to be getting these rewards?
So there's 2 things. I just talked about redeeming the miles and points. He's talking about the second part of it, which is if you spend money with the airlines, cash, tickets, and now they've moved it beyond cash tickets to actually on anything. So if you work with American Airlines, they have partners that sell hotels. If you book your hotel through the AA booking channel, you can earn American Airline miles as well. If you book a rental car from Avis, you can earn American Airline miles as well. If you go to the AA shopping portal and do your Sephora purchases, but through the AA shopping portal, you can earn more AA miles as well. So now it's not a frequent flyer program today. It's now a frequent spender program. If you spend your money through an AA partner, you can earn AA miles. And your friend and you, Josh, who don't even fly, or maybe you don't even fly as much as him, but because you use all their partners, they even have a bank. There's a bank called Bass Bank that if you deposit money with Bass Bank, instead of giving you interest, they give you AA miles. I have a client of mine who literally earns, I kid you not, she deposits a pretty big chunk, but she earns close to 50,000 miles a month. And the 50,000 miles a month she uses is almost enough, or it is enough, for her to book a business class ticket. So she could literally have 12 business class tickets a year just about the base. And for her, that's more worthwhile. That's more fun. That's more than just the interest, because the interest she would have earned, although it would be great, it would not have been able to book a ticket that she was able to get. So she gained like 3 times more value out of her investment in that bank than she would. Now, we would probably talk to her about investing somewhere else, but that's what she wants, to put money in that savings account that earns AA miles. So you don't need to spend so much money flying anymore, Joshua. So in the past, I would have said maybe you would need to fly about 10 to 15 times. Nowadays, you don't. The first time you fly, you maybe walk on as a top tier executive platinum because you spent money through them.
Wow. I think that kind of brings up what you were saying about the interest versus the points. And that 50,000 points being a business seat. So is there like a kind of standard what 1 point equals, or does that vary card to card and per program? That's
a really good question. So I would say I would peg each point baseline at 1 cent per point. And here's a quick math, okay, for all the math people here. If you want to do kind of like a quick estimate, if you see 100,000 points and you go, what does 100,000 points translate into? If I use a baseline of 1 cent per point, I just drop the last 2 zeros. Whatever's left, which is 1,000 at that point, that's how many dollars 100,000 points. So 100,000 points, $1,000. 1,000,000 points, $10,000. Does that make sense? Now, that's the minimum. It can go higher than that. So if you were to use it in the travel portal, if you were to use it in the Chase travel portal, in the Citi travel portal, the Amex travel portal, or Capital One travel portal, and you just book it that way, you're going to get 1 cent per point. Now, if you were to transfer it to the airline programs, you would probably get on economy, you'll probably get about a 1.7 to maybe a 2 cent per point valuation. And if you booked it for business class, you would get 3 cents per point. And if you booked it for first class international, you can get anywhere between 7 cents to 12 cents per point. So it's a so let me give you an example of this. If I were to book a economy ticket and I wanted to upgrade it into a business, it would probably cost me 4 times more money. But in miles, it's only double for business class. So So you're able to get a lot more value when you use it for business and for first, because now it does require more miles, but it's better than paying for. And here's the thing: some people think business is kind of bougie and everything like that, but listen, how many of you are like 6 feet tall and the seat in economy just is not really, really comfortable, right? Or some of you maybe the width is not wide enough. You're like. You ever sat next to somebody and your shoulder is like on top of their shoulders? So, I mean, sometimes it's a necessity, and if you're there and you're traveling, you don't need a whole day to recover from your economy flight,
Yeah. It's funny because we started, my daughter's almost 3. And once we started traveling with her, for a while, she was sitting on our lap. And I was just like, man, I cannot fly anymore. Like the space is just too small. Like I can't be on these planes. And then I went somewhere by myself and I was in coach, and I was just being by myself. I was like, oh, this is not so bad actually. But that being said, I've flown business, and it's like, even there, it's like a step above. And I'm not I'm like 6 feet tall, but yeah, being able to stretch your legs out a little bit is nice.
I mean, for a 2-hour flight, it's fine, but you're going like cross country, red eye, some of these things it gets kind of, It depends who's sitting next to you, Colin. Depends who's sitting next to you. They don't mean to infringe in your space, but,
I don't know. Some of these people I've sat next to, I swear they're like from the get-go, they just kind of like establish like, this is my armrest.
Right.
Like, hey man, like we're supposed to share this thing. Like, it's like 50-50 here. It's like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So when somebody's trying to I guess weigh the benefits of each credit card, how do you decide which one to use? Because there's so many different options.
There is. I will say this. I'm going to categorize it. We're talking about travel. I'm not talking about cashback. Outside of cashback, in the travel space, there's 2 types of cards. There's either a branded credit card, what we call a co-branded credit card, which means like if you got a Delta SkyMiles card, or if you got a Marriott card, or if you got a Hilton card, we call that a co-branded card. I see a lot of people come to me when they start, they have one of those cards and they want to build on it. And then I stopped for a second. I said, before we go down that road, do you know there's another category of cards, and those are what we call, I call sometimes hybrid cards, but they're really basically bank credit cards. They're the banks that are the bank behind that Delta card. They're the bank that's behind that Hilton card. And they have their own points program. And you may wonder, well, why would I want to earn American Express membership rewards point rather than Delta? Well, because Delta gets to charge what they want to charge. Let me give you an example. Delta SkyMiles are fantastic for short haul flights in the US. Okay, if you're trying to fly US somewhere, Delta SkyMiles is fantastic. If you ever want to fly internationally, you ever want to fly the one with the doors in business class on those 767 or 777, if you're going to try to fly one of those nice ones up in the front and you try to use a Delta SkyMiles, no, it's not 7,000 miles anymore. They want like 360,000 miles. You're like, God, how am I even going to collect 360,000 miles? They don't care. They're just literally charging that. So just know that's what you're going to be faced with. And that's why sometimes people who collect miles and points who are new, they think it's a scam. It doesn't work because that's how they've earned the points. If you had collected American Express points, you would have not been limited to Delta. You would have had Delta and 20 other airlines. You would have 21 airlines to choose from that you can move your points into. And why is this important? But Ben, I want to fly Delta. I don't want to fly Air France. So here's the thing. Delta and Air France and Virgin Atlantic are partners that you can transfer to from Amex. And Delta will charge $360. But Air France is a partner of Delta. And they allow Air France to book tickets for Air France customers on Delta. So you can go, it's like going to another store that sells Coke. You don't have to go buy Coke from the Coca-Cola Museum. You can go over to the liquor store next door and see if they sell it too, because maybe they sell it for less. So when you go over to Air France, when you go over to Virgin Atlantic, they may be selling that Delta flight because they're partners. And so they may be selling, instead of 360,000, they may actually only charge you 90,000 points. So you can actually get 4 tickets on Air France, but to fly Delta, than what Delta is going to charge our own customer. Now, here's the caveat. Delta may have 10 flights that they can fly using their miles, but Air France says we're only offer 2. But if those 2 work for you, then you just save yourself a bunch of points and a lot of money.
So after you mentioned the ones with the doors, like the first class doors and Emirates or whatever, that's what I imagine is like the gold standard.
Emirates is definitely the gold standard of first class. So, you know what? Here's the other thing. I was explaining to someone earlier, do you know that when most people, their version of first class is a recliner seat? Because when you go to most planes domestically, it's a recliner seat on 737. It reclines back and it's wider. If you flew an international plane, they moved that and they categorize that as premium economy. When you're on an international flight, that's not called first class. That's called premium economy. So you have economy, and then you have premium economy, which is a recliner, which is wide and more like a sofa bed, sofa couch. And then you have business class, which is higher, and that one's a lie flat seat. It lays flat 180 degrees, almost like a bed would be. And it's wider, and it's like your own kind of suite. And then what you're talking about with Emirates, that's one step higher than that, and that's called first class. Not every airline has it, but they call that first class. International first class, wider seats. So instead of 40 people in business, now there's only 6 people in first class. And then the same number of flight attendants they have for the business, they have that same number but for 6 people in the first class. And then they have ground crew. They sometimes, not only do they have a lounge for business, they have another lounge just for first class. And those tickets run like $12,000. So whereas economy was like $900, business was $3,500. First class is like $12,000. So most people, when they think first class, and they told me they flew first class, they're probably talking about premium economy seat. They've never flown first class. Very few people ever get to go fly first class. And that's the coolest thing about points and miles. Like you can be able to do things and find a flight that has first class and be able to book it with points for like pennies on the dollar. Like you're paying like just the taxes, and the taxes may be, a couple $100 at most.
I think I flew first class one time going like from LA to San Jose. It was an Alaska Airlines flight, and I was all excited. It was like a 45-minute flight, and I got on and I was just like, oh, okay, this is like the front row in Southwest. It was cool.
So the $12,000 first,
but I'm just saying, like, if you want to do like kind of fun things that you can't do, so there's people who come in the hobby of points and miles because they want to do fun things like that and do something experiential, and then some people who it's more out of necessity. Like I've had people who were elderly. My grandmother is not gonna sit very well in economy on a long haul trip. You're just kind of like that's why a lot of older people don't want to travel. It's a pain. It's a hassle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how much money do you actually have to spend to get enough points to do one of these first class tickets? Well, so like $12,000 for the first class, but how much do I have to spend to get that as
let's say that $12,000 flight, if we translate it into points, it can be as low as, I'm going to go as low as 60,000 points, 63,000 points. You can fly Houston or IAD, which is Dulles Airport, to Frankfurt or Munich on Lufthansa first class, that 12,000 flight, for as little as 86,000 miles. Business class, 63,000 miles. Now, and here's the thing. How do I earn 86,000 miles? How do I earn 60,000 miles? Well, you don't have to spend $80,000. I'll just start off with that. You don't need to spend 80,000. You can do it a couple ways. You can spend on a card that earns double or triple for every dollar. So if you earn triple, now you're down to like 20,000, right? $20,000. Now, the best way, the way that most people, when they come in, is they look for a juicy welcome bonus. When the bank is trying to lure you to use their credit card, they'll usually offer you a sign-on welcome bonus. And so the welcome bonuses, when I got started, the high one used to be 50. Nowadays, you see welcome bonuses starting at 60, 75 is, a pretty decent one, 80,000. I've seen some that are over 100,000, when we're talking about the Amex or the Chase or any of those type of bank cards now. So you can get it just from hitting the sign-up bonus. And here's a kicker. You can get 60 or 80,000 points for only spending maybe $4,000 or $5,000 in a 3-month period, in a 9-day period. So totally doable. If you spend $1,000 a month and you put on the card, I mean, there's a card right now, Joshua, you can put your rent, pay your rent with it, right? And you can.
Oh, is that the Built card?
The Built card, yeah, the Built card. You can earn points from rent. So there's things like that with no fee. You're not paying a fee for it. Yeah.
So as people are looking at different cards, like you were saying, so maybe you got like a couple different cards. One of them gives you like a 100,000 point sign-on bonus. The other one is like 60. But I think earlier you mentioned like tailoring it to what you do. So it's like those like 3 times points, 5 times points. Is that kind of like with a longer term goal in mind? Is that kind of what you focus on more over that sign-on bonus? Like, hey, this is where you're spending your money. Get the one that has the higher points for that.
Yeah, here's the thing, and we can go to a different strategy, but there's a couple of trains of thought on strategy. Some people, you've heard of people who accumulate a lot of credit cards. You've heard of those people. Okay.
Yeah.
Their philosophy, that type of philosophy is, I'm going to sign up for a card for the main purpose of the sign-up bonus. I'm not looking at the multiplier, and they're signing up for a card and they're making the minimum spend within the end of 3 months. The problem is during that period of time, they're actually earning anywhere between 10x to 15x on every dollar. And they get used to that and they want to keep on earning 10 to 15x. So in 3 months from now, they apply for another card and then they hit the bonus, and they apply for another card and hit the bonus. And it's actually totally fine. Like, it's not going to ruin your score, by the way. Like, it's not going to ruin your score once every 3 months, because even though there's a credit hit, and I kind of covered this a little bit in my class too, but even though there's a credit hit, you're talking about anywhere between a 5 to 12% drop in your score when there's a credit inquiry, because that's 10% of your score. The other 65% of your score, when you apply for a new card and get approved, that really helps your score a lot. Let me give you an example. 2 of the major things that affect your score, which account for 60% or 65% of your score, is, did you make your payment on time? And are you carrying a balance that's 30% below whatever your credit line is? If you're not carrying a balance and you're paying it on time, the third thing also is credit mix. You also have now more credit cards. That actually improves your score. So within the 3 months, as you're doing that, your score goes back up. So even though it drops down maybe 5 or 12 points, it's going to recover back in the end of 3 months. And that's when people usually apply again for another card. So actually, as time goes by, your score actually improves. It goes against most people's belief that the more they apply for a credit card, the more their credit's going to tank, is because they're only looking at that part of it. But if people actually track it, it actually grows over time. Let me give you an example. I've never met anybody yet, maybe you come in and tell me, who said, I don't have any credit cards, I have a car loan and I have a mortgage payment and I have an 850 score. You can't get there because your risk profile won't get you there. You need to have unsecured debt too to show. Let me give you an example. Let me tell you why. Because number one, if you don't make your car payment, they take your car. There's a consequence if you don't. If you don't make your mortgage payment, they can take away your home. But if you don't make your credit card payment, they can't take it away. All they can do is put something on your report that says, you owe money, and then it tanks your score, which basically is a notification to all the other banks. Don't lend to this person. He or she isn't trustworthy to pay you back. So if you can make 30 payments, 60 payments on time when you don't have to, other banks are going to trust you, your score is going to rise. And so everyone should have at least somewhere between 5 to 7 cards to give that mix. And I guarantee you do that and you do it on time and keep your balances low, your score is going to surpass 800, which is what happens to people.
I'm really glad you just went into detail about that, because you just described me 100%. Like I just opened like my 3rd card and I'm like freaking out because my credit score went down. But describing how it comes back up, that makes complete sense. So what do you say to people like when their wallet starts getting too heavy from the 7 cards that they're carrying around?
Well, I only carry the ones that are really worthwhile. But I don't, people ask me how many credit cards do I don't apply for anymore, because like I have a stack. Like
Oh,
This is my
if you guys are only listening to this, you need to go to YouTube because he just showed us his stack of credit cards.
Capital One. This is right, and I literally.
there's 2 stacks.
Oh, 2 stacks. Oh my goodness.
This is the city. This is the city one. So this is.
So he's
there's a third.
Oh my goodness.
And then I don't know. I gotta find my Amex one, but there's like.
Oh my goodness. What is that? That's like
He can't hold it in one hand. He needs 2 hands to carry all his cards.
Access. This is my lounge access, and then Amex and stuff like that. Yeah, so I mean, I don't apply for too many. I have them all at this point now. So when I talk about cards, I'm like, okay. So when people are like, "How do you remember all the different cards?" I'm like, I have them all. I mean, if then I figure out which ones you want to keep, and I realize every card has a real meaning to it. Like there's a reason to have it, and that's
so that looked like you have like at least 20 or 30 cards. My tax accountant is like, what the hell you do?
I work with big businesses and I've never seen anybody have as many accounts as you do.
So what, after opening all of those, just to kind of point on like what your whole credit score coming back up after a certain amount of time, are you comfortable telling us what your credit score is after owning and opening those 30 cards?
820, 824. I mean, that's not a problem. And then it differs between Equifax, TransUnion. Here's the other thing a lot of people don't realize. Most of the banks work with one credit reporting agency. They don't check all 3. Capital One did for a while, but most of them just check with one. That's why your score looks different. Because they work with one. So they usually pull from one. So the guys who do credit repair and things like that, they actually, and it can, like Chase it depends on the region and things like that. But your credit report or your credit score, by the way, for some people is wrong. What I mean by it wrong is that sometimes, here's the thing. I used to work for one of the credit reporting agencies. I used to work with Carfax. There's the 3-4 major ones, but there's really like hundreds of credit reporting agencies, meaning like if you apply for insurance, I've been insured for a long time. There's a company called LexisNexis. I don't know if you folks ever heard LexisNexis, okay? LexisNexis, they do the Clue report, which is your claims loss report. When you apply for insurance and you're paying for insurance and they said, have you had any claims? And you say, no, I've never had any claims. They don't trust you. They go and check, by the way, okay? They check. And who they check? They check with LexisNexis. So there's like an insurance score on you. There's a credit score on you. Like your whole life has been scored by different companies. When you buy a car and you want to know about the history, your insurance rates, they check with Carfax because they can see all the maintenance and all that kind of stuff. So my company used to be one of the reporting agencies where we gather data. And as accurate as Carfax is, and as accurate as you think all these credit reporting agencies, they're only as good as the information they're getting. And if there's a mistake, if there's an error, whose job is that to tell them that? It's going to be you. And most people never look at it and they just take it as face value. And I would say that there's a lot of people out there that have more errors on the report than is correct, meaning that until you go back to tell them that it's wrong, you don't know. And if you got that corrected and removed, and you can do that yourself, you don't need anybody else. You can just reach out to them and let them know because they want to make it correct. It's not that they don't. It's just that they have the information that they have. And then some people out there, any of your listeners are listening, and they have a very common name. Someone may have applied for your card with your social, because you guys have to share the same name. And next thing you know, they applied for a card in your name and you didn't even know it. And maybe they didn't pay it off, and now it's affecting on your credit. I have a guy who's a friend of mine. He found out that he was dead on his credit report. They closed out his credit. Like he said he was deceased. Yeah.
Well, that's a little scary.
Yeah, right? He had to go back to prove he was still alive to the credit reporting agencies because someone called in and said they didn't, because they called in, someone called in claiming they were them and saying they were trying to charge off everything by saying that they were deceased. So people actually, it's a scam out there. People call in and say that they're deceased so they don't have to pay any more debts.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I know. I had a mispayment on my mortgage, and on one of these sites, it told me that my credit score dropped to like 620 or something like that. And obviously like that worried me a little bit. And then kind of to your point, like there's so many different credit agencies. When we just bought our most recent property, because we buy investment properties, the actual report came back at like like 770 or something like that. That's like a huge difference. It's not just a little bit off.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that much. Another thing, like Vantage score versus the actual FICO 8 or FICO 9 score, totally different as well. So I mean, Vantage, sometimes the one that most people get in their banks. And sometimes it runs a little higher than what it really is, and so sometimes people think it's higher than it really is.
Yeah. So one of my, I think one of my concerns with having multiple credit cards, and I have a decent amount, but I kind of did that too, where it's like I have these different credit cards that I've opened, and a lot of them are just. I mean, I don't have as many as you, but they're just in a desk drawer.
Nobody has as many as you.
but somebody like told me a while back, they're like, it doesn't matter. Like if you're not using it, like buy a pencil with it once a month or something. Just don't close it, because that can affect your credit report or your credit score.
It can because like 15% of your score is age of history. Here's a mistake I made when I first got started. Here's why I think a lot of people should really dive a little bit than just face value. Let me give you an example. When I first got started in Point Smile, I made literally all the mistakes you could have made because I had a little information, but it was enough to make me dangerous for myself. So I knew I was going to go apply for this card. So I've been reading. And so I applied. I was going to apply for a card. And so one of the things I thought, okay, I need to know what my credit report looks like. I need to know my credit score. So I pull up my credit report, look at my score, and I see these old cards I had from college days. Like they were no annual fee. It was like MBNA insurance bank. It was like an old bank. They don't even. Anyway, there was no derogatories. It was perfectly fine. No interest. There's zero balance, nothing. But here's my mind. I thought that having all this extra lines of credit was going to affect me getting approved for the new bank, and I didn't want the new bank to say, "Well, you already got a lot of credit. I'm not going to approve you for one because you already got enough cards." So you know what I did? Before I did anything, I'm going to close out all my old cards. I literally called and canceled every one of my old cards, not realizing that one of the things about now, other than what we talk about, making sure you're paying on time, is how long have you had history? Your age of history. Your age of history is like 15% of your score. So I had accounts that were like 15 to 20 years old that I closed, and by doing that brought my average history down from. If I had only 5 or 6 cards, because I'm new to this, if I close out 1 or 2 cards, that's like 40% of my cards that had old age history. I just dropped from like 8, 9 years of history down to like 3. And that tanked my score. And then I'm about to go apply for a new card, and they can't see any of my old cards now because I closed it out, because the only thing I have now is just the ones I had recently in the last 3 years. So I had to build up. So I had to take it slow because I didn't have a lot of age of history. So one advice is don't make my mistake. Don't close out old accounts that are good standing. If there's no annual fee, keep them alive. But a lot of the banks now, they don't really want you to have all these old accounts if you're not going to use them. So I just got closed recently, Colin. I didn't pay attention because I haven't been I had Banana Republic for like 7 years, and Barclays said no more. And they used to be Synchrony, and they got sold to Barclays. And Barclays, since I became Barclays, I haven't really used it much. So Barclays is like, oh, we don't need your credit line. So they're closing out all their liabilities, because every time they have a credit line for you, that's a liability for them on the balance sheet, because you can go run up the card. So they close it out. So yeah, Colin, I totally agree. You should at least, if you want to keep it, especially as an old card, you want to at least keep one purchase a year just to say, hey, I'm still using it. I still want your card.
Yeah.
So I guess one concern I have is like getting putting like some subscription on it or something and then forgetting about it, and then you don't make your payments, and then I feel like that's going to hurt me. So like, how do you keep track of all these?
Luckily at this point now, I have a lot of cards. So here, think of it like this. The more cards I have, if I close 1 card or 2 cards, it doesn't hurt me. When I only had 5 cards and I close 1, that's 20% of all my accounts. Does that make sense? By having more of them, if they closed out 1 or 2, it won't, that closure, even though it's an old card, is not going to affect my credit score, because I have enough of them that's a drop in the bucket. So that's one good thing about having multiple cards. But the second thing about it is, to answer your question, is I do the subscription. I do keep it. But, at some point I started kind of looking at cards and going, do I need to have 15 cards that are 7 years old? If I close out 5 of them, is it fine? So I have. I mean, I like I said, I don't apply as many cards as I used to. If there's a really nice, juicy bonus, maybe I'll apply for a new card lately, but I'm probably down to like applying for maybe like 2 or 3 cards a year at most nowadays. I don't really apply for many more. Yeah.
You're recovering?
Yeah.
I think I've applied for 2 to 3 in my entire life, and he's doing it every year. So.
Well, and Josh and I for a long time, because we started investing in real estate, like 4 years ago together.
Yeah.
And he's in Wisconsin. I'm in LA. All of our real estate's in Wisconsin. So, when we'd go out there and when we'd be doing stuff, I was like, hey, dude, we got to get a credit card. We got to start putting stuff on there so we can be accumulating points. And like for the longest time, it was just like, well, I don't know, like, and whatever. I get it, because I was kind of the same way.
He can slap me over the camera. That's fine.
Well,
I was the reason that we haven't accumulated all these points.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. There's actually like the secret in points and miles that a lot of new people don't realize is that the business cards is a workhorse for a lot of the people in points and miles. The business cards, and if you didn't have a business, you should think about getting a business if you get involved in points and miles, because there's so many things that you can do if you start getting business cards, because now you not only have personal cards available, but you also have business cards. And a lot of the business cards don't count toward your personal score, meaning that you could literally live on a diet of just opening business cards and it doesn't affect your FICO score because it's on the business side. So that's like one hack right there. That's number one. Number two, they also have bigger offers, bigger sign-up bonuses, bigger spend. But if you guys are in real estate, you already hit the spend. That's not a problem. Like there's one right now, the Capital One Venture X business. If you spend 20,000 now, I think it's 20,000. You spend 20,000, you're going to be able to earn 150,000 points. If you do another 100,000, you earn another 100,000 points, 150,000 points. So there's like a pretty big sign-up offers for businesses. That's for number one. And if you're in real estate, I would say this. There's one card that should not be ignored, which is the Chase Inc. Cash card. That's a 5X at an office supply store. And here's an interesting thing. I'll share for your listeners. The Chase Inc. Cash card earns 5X. That is the highest earning card in Chase's portfolio. Out of all their cards, there's no card higher than 5. Really, 5 is really at the max. 5, they're actually losing money. Okay, 5. Most cards that earn 5X have a cap. Like the bank got to the point they realized, okay, we're going to cap it out. So this card, you can cap it out at 25,000 spend, but you can earn 5X on the card up to 25,000 spent. So that can earn up to 125,000 points a year. And they restart it up again in a year. Now, here's where it's interesting. Anything in an office supply store, it doesn't have to be, because you're maybe thinking, well, how much paper and printers am I going to buy in ink at an office supply store? No, anything in the store. So they have this section like a gift card rack. So you can go buy a gift card. And on the gift card rack, you can buy Amazon. You can buy Home Depot. So if you do any Home Depot stuff, you can earn 5X on Home Depot purchases without having a Home Depot credit card. And it earns 5X on Chase that you could be able to use for airfare or hotel, which is a great thing for that, for economy flights and for hotels with Hyatt, for example. So you can earn 75,000 as a sign-up bonus once you spend $6,000. And then you can earn it once you you go buy some Home Depot cards, you earn another 125,000. You're now up to 200,000 points just from one credit card. Okay, and 200,000 points, you may go, what is that worth? Well, it's $2,000, or you could be able to use that you could use that for 3 weeks in Hawaii at a hotel, like a Hyatt Regency. So there's a lot of ways to be able to do this. And by the way, that card here is no annual fee for the first year. It's 0% for the first year too. And number two, it's no annual fee and a 0% APR. So it's like it's a trifecta and a business card. And it's a fantastic card.
So then what do you do with it at the end of that year? Is it like a big fee or?
No, it's literally a no annual fee all the time. It's not.
Oh, never.
There's none. Now, here's the thing. You do need to have one card with the annual fee. So the way Chase works is you need to have one card that has an annual fee. I call that the redeeming card. That's the card you're using to transfer and redeem. That's either Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, or the Ink Preferred. There's only one of three cards you need to get. You need one of those to redeem. That pays $95. And then the other cards can all be free cards, and you can transfer the points over. So they allow you to move your points from the no fee card to the fee card and seamlessly. And you can do it online.
Well,
Mine
this is why I know I was going to say, so we'll definitely pitch it later, but you have your whole mastermind and your program that you're teaching people this stuff. One of the other things I've seen since I started following you on Instagram and signed up for your newsletter is you've been talking a lot about like the hotel programs and this Aways thing. So what's this Aways?
Yeah, here's the thing. One of the problems with points and miles when you're planning a trip, let's say you have points. Joshua, Colin, you guys got Amex points, you have Chase points, and you go, okay, I want to go on a trip. I want to go to Venice. I want to go to Barcelona. Where do people start? Well, most people, they go to Google. Let me see what kind of hotels are available, right? Or you may go to Expedia. The problem is now there's too much information. Now you got all these hotels and you're going, that doesn't solve my problem, which is I want to use my points. Do these hotels accept points? So Aways eliminates all the excess hotels and says, here's only the hotels that accept your points or accepts all the points. And it can create filters. And you said, Ben, I had a credit card. I think it had a free night certificate. Well, if you put in that you have a free night certificate, you can enter that in the system. It'll tell you where the hotels you can use in any city in the world on how to use it with a free night certificate. So it's fantastic. And some of the hotel programs like IHG and Marriott, they let you top off. So if you have a free night certificate and it says it's only good for 40,000 points, but the hotel's charging 55, you can add another 15,000 points and you can combine the points with the certificate to make that redemption happen.
That's the next level.
That's the next level. But you can do it. It can be done. So the tool is very, very good. It's the only tool out there I've seen that can not only, number one, handle all the hotel programs. It's not just IHG, Marriott, and Hyatt, but it also has Choice Hotels. It has Accor. It has Wyndham. Wyndham has a deal with Vacasa, which if any of you are Airbnb people or VRBO, Vacasa is similar to that. Although you can't use points to book Airbnb, you could do this. You could take that Chase, remember that Chase cash card that you had to go to the office supply store? Well, you could go find Airbnb gift card and buy Airbnb gift card if you'd like, and then use that and now earn 5 points on Airbnb instead of just paying cash with it. So that's another way to be able to do it as well.
So I think, well, first we want to hear about this mastermind and like how people can get involved and all that if they want to learn more. But if you had to pick, like, I don't even know, like if there is a best airline or a best card, but like, let's say for a nurse,
for beginners,
yeah, for beginners, they're a nurse, they make a decent amount of money, they travel a decent amount. Which one card would you?
I think there are a few of them because depending on who we're talking to, if you're looking for a no annual fee card, and you're looking to earn points that can be transferable for everywhere, I actually really think the best no-fee card out there is the Bilt card, BILT, Bilt card. I have links for that as well. I've worked with them. They are fantastic. They've literally cherry-picked Chase's, Amex, Citi, and Capital One's best transfer partners, and they brought that themselves. In fact, today they just announced that their board of directors, they got the former president of Amex, is now sitting on their board at Bilt. They just got $3 billion valuation. It's an incredible story of rise from what they were doing. That's one card, the Bilt card. I think the other card, if I'm going to advise someone, is to think about going with Chase first, not Amex. And the reason I say that is this. Chase points are fantastic for economy tickets because they have two partners that Amex does not. They have United and they have Southwest, which represents two of the major 4 airlines in the United States. So if you have Chase points, you can be able to use them for Southwest and for United. And you can use them for British Airways and book in more complicated stuff too. But 2 of the 4 is right there. And so that's the Chase. And then when it comes to hotels, they win on the hotel part as well because they have Hyatt as a partner. And Hyatt is, Colin, do you remember the SPG days? Remember Starwood Preferred Guests? I don't know if you remember them.
Oh, kind of.
Before they got merged with Marriott, they had fantastic programs. They started off as like little as 2,000 points to make a booking. Those folks have left SPG Starwood and when Marriott bought them, and they went to Hyatt. So they run the World Hyatt program now. And so the program is fantastic for elites. It's very good value. And so if you earn Chase points, you could use it for Hyatt. You could use it for Southwest and United. And I think it's a great travel portal, and you're going to earn more in that way. So I think for a beginner, some people just live and breathe in Chase, and they never even leave it. And the great thing about it is that it's a place that you want to start because they're also one of the toughest ones to get approved for later in the game. If you go down the road of Amex and Citi and Capital One early on, and then you don't go to Chase won't give you time of day. They'll basically, not allow you to get any of their cards. So it would be a card that I would start off early. The Chase Sapphire Preferred is a fantastic one to start off with. It's a $95 annual fee. So that way you kind of get yourself into it. It doesn't give you any lounge access or anything like that, but it gets you in the game.
So one question I have is, so Amex has a credit, maybe they all do, I just don't know. They have a card that's like actually metal, and I think that's just like the coolest thing ever. Because when you throw it down, it makes a noise. No, is that the only one that has a metal card?
Chase is metal.
How have I told you the built card, the one I just told you that 0 annual fee that has a great? What if I told you that was a metal card as well?
Then
only no annual fee.
I actually, so the Chase Sapphire card is metal, and like usually like when a card expires, I go to shred it, and like I was like, oh, well, it can't be real. Like tried to, I think it didn't shred.
What do you do?
Your machine's just gonna go stall.
Yeah, they send you like an envelope to like send it back in.
That's right.
So I was like, oh, that makes sense. Maybe I missed
it. The best metal card ever, Joshua, was the Chase Ritz-Carlton card. That's the best metal card and heaviest one ever. It's heavier than any of the Amex cards. It literally, I remember giving it to like the 7-Eleven person one time because they had to swipe it, and they said, whoa. Like I had a card and someone said, whoa. Like it was like literally had, there's a like when people had to go, when there's snow and you had to wipe off all the, people literally pull out that card and they can scrape the ice off. It's that good. And then I think there was a story one time of somebody who got shot and they had their card in their pocket and the thing stopped the bullet. It's incredible. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Bring that back.
Yeah. My credit card saved my life.
Yeah. That's a good ad.
Right?
Yeah.
So how did you kind of go from just geeking out on this stuff to deciding like, hey, I'm going to go do a mastermind, and what does that look like? Who are you kind of targeting for this program?
So when I earn points, my story to Points and Miles is a little bit different. I may geeked out, but most people geek out and they just go travel for themselves. I would use my points. Everyone I ever read in any blog that I ever read, I literally use my own points and cash to fly out to go see them and take them to dinner. I literally said, I'm going to learn about this thing. I went deep in, and I realized there was another thing outside of what you can learn just from reading the blogs. There's a lot of things that you can read about Points and Miles on the blogs, but there's another side that they don't share. The reason is if you shared it, if I told you can, instead of, I'll give you an example. If I told you, the blogs would say, here, if you go to this website, you can earn 3x, 4x. There's another world out there where you can spend $1 and earn 100x. 100x for every dollar. And it would earn you status for like less than $1,500. Top tier status for $1,500. If they were to tell you that on the Instagram, that would get to the airline and it would shut down in a second. So there's certain things that don't. And so when I flew out to see these people, my mind was blown every single time. Things that people have been doing for years and years now. And I realized that you don't even need that part, but you could literally do this as a living. I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this as a living, but I decided back in 2016 to get more involved in it. And I started running a Facebook group points and miles. We grew it from 1,000 to like 40,000 people. And that was from 2016 to 2020. Then the pandemic hit and everybody stopped traveling. So I was on this app called the Clubhouse, and I would run these rooms like podcasts like this, but like on audio, and it would have fantastic people on there, and I built a whole community. And because the app didn't really have any kind of messaging, we were pushed on Instagram, which led me to Instagram. And the folks on Clubhouse and Instagram said, we should have a class on this, because other than asking questions, there's no learning, and nobody really have taught it. And I didn't want to do a class where because a lot of things, here's what I learned. Joshua and Colin need to ask the question that he wants, because if I just have a straight on course to cover, it may not get the answer you want. So I decided that I was going to teach a class live, answer people's questions. I have a 4-segment. I mean, I've been teaching insurance for a number of years now, my life and insurance. And I said, this is way more fun to talk about than talking about life insurance and invest things like that. But I love people when they are able to see how they're able to travel. And now it not only changes their life, but their family life. I've been able to send my mom on business class when she never did it before. I've been able to fly people in when there's a funeral and they can't afford to do it, and I've been able to bring people into, because I had the miles and points, I could be able to do it. So if you ever thought about it and go, even if you don't travel, you could be able to use it for other things that people can't do because they don't have the money to do it. You can be able to use your points and miles to do those kind of special things.
Like taking a guy like me to the lounge and having dinner and a drink and a cookie.
Colin's life has been forever changed.
Changing lives, one lounge at a time. No, it was great. It really was.
I've done it for other people. And I think it's great because I said, you know what? There's another world out there that you didn't know existed, and it can make traveling just that much more enjoyable. Like, I don't pay for my family to go eat in airport line. I mean, look, if you think about it, the average family, when they're taking their kids on a flight, even if you got free flights, but you didn't have lounge access, you're paying $100 because, just between the soda, the sandwich, that's like $25 right there. And if you're a family of 4, you're like $100 out, and you haven't even gone on the step foot on the plane yet. God forbid you end up and then they don't feed you on the plane, so you're starving, right? And I've had people go, well, I don't need lounge access. I said, look, are you really packing food at 4:00 in the morning when your flight leaves at 6 in the morning? You're not doing that. You're just trying to get out of the house and be on the airport in time. And then when you get there, you're hungry and the airplane doesn't serve you. And that's why your kids are cranky in the morning. And then you land at the connection, and then now you're running around looking for expensive airport food. But if you had lounge access, that changes the whole game.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well,
Yeah.
So we're going to move into our final segment. We ask the same five questions to everybody. So our first one is, what's your go-to top financial resource? Where do you go to educate yourself on finances?
Finance. That's an interesting one.
Or I guess we can tailor it a little more towards all these credit card points.
I'll talk about credit card points and miles because I think this is a good one for if people want to get started and go, I want to learn about it. I would say this: if you are just getting started, I think the Points Guy is a great place for people to start to learn a little bit about the news and things like happen. Another place is to also take a look at if you're farther in, then you can read a thing called Boarding Area. But I think the Points Guy is a great place to start for brand new people.
Nice. So this is we usually ask what advice would you give yourself as a new grad? But I guess in your case, you didn't discover this until about 10 years ago. So now knowing what you know, what advice would you have given yourself, I guess, just starting out in business and work and travel and all that?
I have one. And it took me a while to understand this, but here's the thing. When you find a deal, it's more important to do it now than to wait around and think about it. Deals are like fleeting because as soon as the deal hits, there's a limited quantity. Either someone made a mistake or they put a cap on it. So if you sat around and you thought about it, let me give you an example. There's sometimes incredible deals. One of the best deals I ever had was Cathay Pacific for $1,000 in first class, going from Canada to Vietnam and back. And my mistake was I only bought one ticket. I should have bought more of it. because that flight, because it was a cash revenue ticket, but it was normally $13,000, but they were selling for $1,000. If I had sat around and thought about it, it only lasted for like 4 hours, but we don't know how long it's going to last until it sells out or until they recode it. They honored that particular flight, and I was able to experience a fantastic $24,000 experience for like $1,000. Here's the thing. Most people's mistake when they first got it, and myself too, would have been think about it. The problem is this: if you don't plan ahead, so here's what I tell my family nowadays. We have a calendar and we literally mark off all the days we cannot travel. Maybe that's kid's birthday, this, that, whatever. If there's certain days that we have to be at a wedding, I will mark it off. And then we update that master calendar, and I will go ahead and book based on the calendar. And if it turns out we can't, then we cancel. Because here's a thing a lot of people don't realize: even if you book a ticket and it's out more than a week from now, you have 24 hours to cancel a ticket. American even allows you to hold the ticket for 24 hours, but I would prefer that you actually book it, because hold, they can always cancel your ticket. But if you go ahead and book it, you can still cancel. You still have 24 hours. So just don't make any other reservations. But whenever you find a great deal, book it first and then talk to your spouse later.
I like.
But already have the calendar. You go, hey, honey, I looked at the calendar. It's your job. Keep it updated. I wouldn't do that. But you know what? I'm going to tell you something. If you find a great deal like that, it's really hard to argue, because if it's that good, you should go for it. And you're going to get yelled at that you didn't take the great deal on it, especially when it's a business class or first class or something like that.
For sure. Yeah. I follow somebody on Instagram and I actually know him as an acquaintance, and he always determines, he's like, if this is something that I will remember in 10 years, I do it without hesitation. And that trip is something that I'm sure you remember. Those type of trips you never forget.
Unbelievable. I even skip lagged the back end of it. I'll talk to the skip lag me. I got off of the A, but I didn't even complete it in the end. But it was fantastic. It cost me more money to position myself to Canada than the actual cost. Think about it. Like it cost me more to position there to start off than the actual trip itself. It was incredible. It was great. I mean, I would have done it again and again and again. And that's what people who do this long enough realize, is like, do it now and then let the chips roll. You know, you don't even have to worry about the hotel. Just book the flight first, and then you still got 24 hours to cancel if you need to.
Yeah. All right. So the third question is, so what's your big goal, I guess, for 2024? What does this year look like for you?
So I took my daughter out of traditional schools so that we could be able to travel more. I just think Los Angeles is becoming, I'm born and raised here in Los Angeles, like 40 some plus years of my life. The last 2-3 years have been really expensive. I'm really considering like moving out and maybe renting out my house. I may have to talk to you guys about how do I do that. But
we're here for you.
But I'm looking at living in other countries, maybe for 3 months at a time. You know, it could be Mexico, it could be Thailand, whatever. I haven't figured that part out yet, but it's something we're definitely preparing for.
So yeah, I've been in here in LA for 37 years, and I'm feeling that too. It's like this constant struggle of like, do we stay, do we go? And it's like,
you know, here's the thing. When someone like myself and if you travel enough, you realize like, it's not that bad outside of LA. It's like, even though we have great weather here, it's not like you can't find great weather any place, you know. And if you can get on a plane and go somewhere and have rich experiences, I mean, I know all they need to know about LA at this point. There's nothing else that I mean, you know. I mean, I will always be an Angelito. There's no question about that part of it. But I think I'm at this point where I'm like, if it doesn't, I don't really think it's going to get less expensive or cheaper. I don't think that's going to happen. Is it my time? Is the signal for me to go and kind of take the next stage? That's really what's happening. I never would have considered it, like, because I love LA. I love all the things and amenities about it, but I think there's other things in that's around the world, and I think if anybody's considering doing it, applaud you.
Yeah. So question number 4 is, if you were to tell people to do one thing right now, what would you tell them to do?
I would say this. As it relates to points and miles, I would say think about points and miles as a form of currency. Just like you have stocks, just like you have bonds, just like you have cash in the bank, think of points and miles as a form of currency. It's not just play money. Think about it as a savings account for your future travel, for your hotels. There are times you're going to need to use it, whether it's for pleasure or whether it's for business or whether there's an emergency. And when that time comes, have that stash there. There's a point where I would say, too, you don't need millions of points because at some point it's going to devalue, just like inflation. It's going to eat up your cash. It's the same thing. But I always like to have 300,000-400,000 points of a certain thing, because I have a family of three that travel with me. So I need to have a certain number of points that I can be able to redeem. As long as you have that, then the rest of it you can do cash back. But that's what I would do. I would go and earn points enough in any kind of mileage program. And here's my goal. If you're wondering, like, what are you trying to collect? I want to have points that I can literally get on a plane anywhere. Like if there's a deal, I have the points for that. That's why I have so many cards. I just want to have the currency that I need to be able to book that. And so that's all I need to have. As long as I have all that, I'm fine with it. And you asked me early on, what's the best currency? I actually think American is the best airline currency and Hyatt's the best hotel currency to have.
All right. So number 5, it's our last one. What is the biggest financial mistake that you've made and how can our listeners avoid it? And us.
I made a lot of mistakes. I think, here's the thing. I think the financial mistakes are the ones that you learn from. If you don't make them, you don't really, really learn it. I mean, it's all theoretical until you actually lost money. Probably the biggest one maybe was during the pandemic. I thought I could be a day trader.
I made that same decision. Like, oh, let me buy crypto when it's way up here.
We're all smart when the market's on a bull run, right? We're like, freaking, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to be a day trader, But I think that's the biggest fight is like, it's timing in the market, not timing the market. So just put your money in, and I think you should invest long term. You don't really need, if you pick a great index fund, here's the thing, investing is different than trading. That's what I think that's the lesson is like, if you're trying to invest, you're investing for long term. That implies going long term, and I think you should bet on the American economy, no matter if it's good or bad. I think long term has always shown that it's a win. I believe that this country still. Its best product is their creativity. We may not make things anymore. We may not manufacture anything anymore, but this country, because of the celebration of individualism, I think people have been celebrated to be creative. And I think that's something that we will have. And so we will continue to have the great ideas. And I think there'll be people to fund it. So there'll always be great companies. So I think that's what makes America great.
Well, cool. This is a lot to go back and listen to and try and learn. But
this is one where I'm going to re-listen multiple times.
But if people are looking to learn this kind of stuff and get involved, where can they find you and what's the best?
So I have a website called Ben's Big Deal. They can come there. They can join my newsletter. My newsletter is different than other people's newsletter. Other people's newsletter, because I sign up for them, they just kind of tell you what's going on. My newsletter is kind of like, come join me. I'm doing a live class. Come join me. I'm going to bring this guest speaker. Like tomorrow, I have a Waze. Their CEO is going to be coming. They're going to be adding in flight searches in their hotel. So they want to make it a full trip planning tool. So they'll be coming in for that. So I'll bring in like some of the top points on Instagram folks. Here's when they come into my mentorship, one of the things that I want them to understand is go through the experience I have. I'm not here to go, here, come learn everything from Ben. Ben knows everything. That's not what my goal is. I'm here to help guide you on the right path. I'm going to introduce you to the world of points and miles, the community, the people who are movers and shakers right now, all the people who either written the blogs or are anything. So I've kind of blended the world of the bloggers, the writers, and then the new world of Instagram. I've kind of tried to blend those together in my mentorship and give them a very well-versed. So my goal with them is to make them the best travelers in the world. So that's my goal. It's a very big feat. And one last goal, Joshua, of 24 with my mentorship is I'm trying to help them open up a business in the travel space. So if they're interested in being a travel agent, I think the education they're going to get is fantastic. And I'm looking at building that part out. I also do group trips and things like that. But come to Ben's Big Deal on Instagram or my website, and they can kind of slowly but surely, I post daily, and they can be able to learn a lot just from that alone.
Yeah, I think I even see in the emails, it's like you'll throw a little deal out there every once in a while.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about folks, when you're applying for any kind of program, if any of the influencers you follow are in this space, they probably get a discount that they can offer to their readers. So before you sign up for something, ask your favorite influencer, hey, do you happen to have a discount code? You're not only going to save money, but you'll also support them at the same time. Yeah, and that applies to credit cards as well. So if you're applying for a credit card, reach out to them. You can support, even if you can or can't take their class or their course, you can support them in that way because they also get some type of compensation when you sign up for their credit card as well. So that's always something good to know.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we finally got you on here. Like I said, it's been a long time coming, and we appreciate you spending the time with us and giving us all this knowledge. And I think there's a lot more we can still keep learning. So we're going to have to, follow Instagram, join the group, and just get ready to learn.
Love to come back. I mean, there's a lot more to, we're touching the surface. We just touched the surface. Yeah. But there's a lot more.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. And you said you have a podcast.
I do. It's under Business Travel 360. I've been in business travel for a number of years. So depending on which platform, we're on all the platforms. But like if you're on Spotify, you can just look Ben's Big Deal. You can find us. But if you're like on like Apple Podcasts, you may have to check out my platform, which is Business Travel 360. And within it, you can find Ben's Big Deal because Apple's a little bit harder to find. But Business Travel 360, Ben's Big Deal.
All right.
Sounds
Check
good.
them out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.